Today we're going to be cooking a healthy harvest stew. It's made with root vegetables, round vegetables, all organic, and tempeh, which is a fermented soybean product. It's actually tastes a little bit better than veggie burgers. It's very clean and organic and no GMOs. And we're going to cook it in a stew style because it's very warming for the winter, and we're going to serve it over noodles and over rice. The reason I want to show you, the viewers, this stew is because it's simple, it's easy, it's very nourishing, and people from all ages can enjoy it. You can make it a little bit saltier and savory for people who want a little bit more flavor, or you can make it a little bit mild and sweet. You can use it for a variety of dishes. And this is tempeh. This is what it looks like. You can buy it in bulk and cut it up and put it in the freezer. It's fermented soybeans, and they make it actually in Indonesia. They layer it on banana leaves to let it dry. Years ago, it had a lot of vitamin B12 in it. Now it's prepared more in manufacturing plants. It doesn't have so much vitamin B12, but it has lots and lots of protein and low in fat. So you can find it at your grocery store in the refrigerator section. It's spelled T-E-M-P-E-H. And today we're going to first deep fry it and then cook it in a soy broth, and then add it in a Le Creuset pot and layer it with vegetables. So first we're going to cut the tempeh, and I like to cut it in small pieces. In order to digest tempeh, you have to at least fry it and simmer it or boil it for 20 to 30 minutes. Otherwise, it's not digestible. So we're just going to cut it into small triangles. And we're going to fry each side in some hot oil, and then we're going to add it to a light shoyu broth, natural soy sauce broth, and simmer it for 20 minutes. So we're going to put it in a bowl. Now tempeh you can use to make little burgers. You can grind it to make vegan meatballs. You can make little hors d'oeuvres. You can also deep fry it. Today we're going to pan fry it with organic safflower oil. For cooking, I usually use olive oil, sesame oil, safflower oil, or sunflower oil. I don't use a lot of the commercial oils or coconut oil. So we heat the pan till it sizzles, and we put the tempeh in to brown it. Now this makes the stew very rich and nourishing, and adds deep flavor to the stew. You only want to brown it once on each side, and you don't want to cover the pot, because if you cover the pot, it might simmer over and cause a fire in your house, which you don't want to do. Yeah, make sure the oil is hot and bubbling a little before you put the tempeh in. And we'll just watch that. So while we're heating the tempeh, we're going to make a broth for after the tempeh is browned on both sides. We're going to make a broth, and it's simply water. Make sure to use spring water or filtered water. They put so much chemicals and waste products and things now in tap water. It's not, if you're aiming to improve your health, you don't want to drink tap water. And then about 2 tablespoons of shoyu. Now we call this shoyu. It's like soy sauce, but it's actually healthier than soy sauce. It's fermented soybeans only. It doesn't have caramel coloring or sugars or any chemicals. This is a brand you can find at Whole Foods markets or Mom's markets. It's called Organic Shoyu by Sanjay. So whenever I make a shoyu broth, I make it look like dark beer. You don't want to make it too dark or salty. If you have too much salt in your diet, you're going to crave a lot of sweets and sugar. So I make it very light. And then as your tempeh is cooking, you just turn it over once it's brown on one side. Tempeh is really nutritious. In ancient times, they would make it in Indonesia and ferment the soybeans and dry it out in the sun on banana leaves. And it had a lot of B12. Now that's made in factories, it doesn't have as much B12, but it has very good properties. It's just pure soybeans that are fermented. If you get organic, it's non-GMO, and soybeans are really a nice protein. So we're flipping each one over. And there's very many uses of tempeh. But I like to tell people, especially that if you're looking to lose weight or to begin a healthier diet and cut a little bit of meat and dairy food out of your diet, tempeh is a wonderful replacement because it is 100% protein and it's made from soybeans. So once the tempeh is browned, we're going to take it out and drain it on a paper towel just to get the excess oil off. And like I said, you can make hors d'oeuvres out of tempeh. You can deep fry them and wrap them up with vegetables or nori seaweed like you would in sushi and make a nice hors d'oeuvre to bring to a party. The 3 bean products that we use in macrobiotic cooking are tempeh, seitan, and beans, and also tofu. So we cook a lot of variety of beans. We cook seitan in very many different ways. You can make sandwiches out of seitan, like mock steak sandwiches. You can make vegan meatballs out of seitan. You can put just seitan with noodles and a nice peanut sauce. And then tofu has 100 different ways that you can cook it. It's very versatile. You can crumble it, make scrambled tofu, deep fried tofu stew. You could float it in miso soup. So you can get your protein all different ways using macrobiotic cooking. So we're going to turn off our oil and we're going to let this simmer, cover it for 20 minutes. And that way the tempeh will cook all through the little triangles. Otherwise, it's not digestible and it's not that tasty to eat. So while the tempeh is cooking, we're going to start the stew. I have a little Le Creuset pot. Today we're using the heart shape. I'm going to heat it up and just simply add some olive oil and garlic. Now I'm a fan of using really good quality olive oil. Again, I only buy organic, so organic olive oil. So I just gently put it on the bottom of the pan. We use good quality olive oil, sesame oil, and dark sesame oil in macrobiotic cooking. So we're heating up the pan, and then we're going to put chopped garlic. Now you can skip the garlic if you're not a garlic fan, but this adds flavor to the stew. We're going to let that simmer a little bit. And then you can add whatever vegetables that you like. If you use onions, you want to start with onions first and cook them off, because onions are a little bit bitter and they're hard to digest. So you should put those in first and let them simmer, either in olive oil or olive oil and water. Today we're going to use leeks, chopped leeks. So we have the garlic simmering. We're going to add chopped leeks. About a half cup. Now leeks are wonderful because when you cook them in soup, they get really gummy and they add body and flavor to your soups and stews. You just stir that around until the garlic and the leeks blend together. And then we're going to add a little bit of water. And make sure it's spring water or natural water. Now when you cook, you want to hear that little sizzle. You don't want to overcook or have it burning or steaming uncontrollably, but you want a little bit of a sizzle so you can actually hear the sizzle. And you can see that the leeks are getting a little softer. So then after the leeks are sauteed with garlic, we're going to add root vegetables. You can add any vegetable you want. You can put rutabaga, turnips. Today we have carrots and we have parsnips. So we're going to layer the carrots and the parsnips. I just love this pot. It's very cute. Oops. Heart shape. And we're going to cover that for a couple minutes. And once the root vegetables get soft, we're going to add some butternut squash. What I like about this stew recipe is you don't have to use tempeh in the stew. You can put seitan. It's a wheat gluten that's 100% protein. So if you're gluten intolerant, seitan's probably not a good dish for you. But a lot of people like it because it reminds them of the consistency of meat. So we could put seitan in here. We could put tofu in here. You can leave out the protein altogether, or you could put like white beans in here. That tastes nice. So as soon as the root vegetables get a little soft, we're going to add the butternut squash. Now, this time of year is wonderful because there's so many squashes available. There's butternut, which is shaped like a peanut. There's Hokkaido pumpkins and regular cooking pumpkins that you can use. There's long spaghetti squashes, and there's little tiny acorn squashes. So you can have your choice of which kind of squash you want. Summer squash we usually use in the summer. So winter we use more of the hardier orange squashes. So we're going to add the squash. This would make a good stuffing too. You could mix breadcrumbs in there or deep fried croutons to make a rich stuffing. So then once the squash is in, I like to add the tempeh. So we showed you how to prepare the tempeh and boil the tempeh. Now we're just going to put it in. This is our finished tempeh. So it's brown around the edges. It's been boiled in shoyu and water. And we just season it and put it in the pot. Make sure the water stays about an inch on the bottom so it doesn't burn. And then we're going to add 3 herbs. Now you can have your choice of herbs, whichever you'd like. This stew I've experimented with about 30 times in cooking class, so I found some nice herbs that I like. This is fresh oregano. Put this in. This is fresh marjoram. And this is sage. Sage comes as a big leaf, so you have to chop it up. Sage is wonderful in like squash soups and stews. So it's that combination of herbs that really adds to your cooking. Oftentimes people come to my classes and they know how to cook vegetables, but they're not familiar with herbs. Herbs are really a necessary accent to add to your dish. So our stew is boiling, and you could smell the aroma. It smells really delicious. We're just going to add a little bit of soy sauce around the edges to finish off the dish. And we're going to add some mirin. Now, mirin is a cooking wine. It doesn't have any alcohol in it. You can get it at Whole Foods and all your natural markets. This one is produced by Eden Foods. It has a really sweet flavor, so you can actually sneak this in desserts if you like. But I like to cook with it, especially in stir fries and stews. So we're going to add a couple drops of mirin. And then as our last ingredient, we're going to add some grated ginger root. Now this is a ginger grater. I'm just going to grate the fresh ginger root. Now lately stores have been carrying turmeric too. So you could buy turmeric as a root and grate it as well. And you can put that in like scrambled tofu and things like that. But this is just fresh ginger. And all you do is simply grate it. You don't have to get a fancy grater like this. You can just use a metal grater. And then you take what you've grated and just add the ginger to the stew. Now you want to do this at the end because ginger flavor boils off. So you want to add it almost to the end of your cooking. You're going to cover your stew. Now, there's one more exciting thing, that if you want to thicken your stew, we don't use cornstarch in macrobiotic cooking because it doesn't settle well in the digestive tract. And if you ever suffer from irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease, cornstarch would make that condition more irritable. This is called kuzu. And kuzu is a wild plant that grows in the south. And it's very hard to pick out of the ground. So it's very expensive to harvest. But once you have some, it's very important to keep a little bit in your kitchen for your health. If you get sick, you can dissolve this in a little bit of water and add a little soy sauce and make a little drink. And it helps with Crohn's disease, diarrhea, digestive problems. It strengthens the entire digestive tract. We use it to make gravies. We make puddings out of it for dessert. And you can find it at Whole Food stores or natural food stores in your area. You can also order it online. So we take about a tablespoonful of the kuzu and we just add a little bit of water. Now, if you don't dissolve it before you add it, it turns into clumps and it won't thicken your stew. Now you can just serve the stew as is, but if you want a saucy, thick gravy stew, you want to add the kuzu. So as I do this, the lumps dissolve. You want to make sure all the lumps are dissolved. And you turn your flame down. And you push the vegetables aside to where the water is. And you just add a little bit at a time. Kuzu will thicken as soon as it hits warm water. So it's turning into like a saucy gravy type thing. And this will make it nice and stewy. And like I said, it actually helps your digestive tract. So all these ingredients you can find in my cookbook as well. Macro Magic for Kids and Parents. And I show you where the kuzu is harvested from and how to buy it and where to find it in the stores. So all you do is stir the broth around and then cover up the pot. So you can serve this tempeh harvest stew over brown rice. Today we served it over brown rice with farro, and that's pressure cooked brown rice with farro. And I will be showing that in one of my episodes, how to cook brown rice in a pressure cooker. Or you can serve it over any kind of pasta or any other grain like quinoa, couscous, amaranth. That was our harvest stew. Join us next time while we'll be making parfaits.